Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about video games and censorship. Now, as a general rule of thumb, I tend not to care about a lot of the censorship measures that go in place. A lot of it has to do with over-sexualized characters. We've seen Nintendo actually do things like this in the past by changing up some of the art direction of certain characters in Fire Emblem over the years. But again, that's a Nintendo first-party IP. Of course, they can do whatever they want to it. But Nintendo has generally not really censored third-party games. They wanted to be scantily clad. If they wanted to depict heavy bouts of violence, like in Mortal Kombat 11, Nintendo's just left it alone. And so has Sony and Microsoft for the most part over the years, but Sony actually enacted a new policy that was specific to targeting over-sexualized characters. And some people really were wondering why Sony changed their policies. Sony used to act just like Nintendo and Microsoft, and just whatever third parties want to do, leave it up to the rating boards to rate the games. If it's too much, that's what the adult-only rating, as an example in the ESRB, is for. But Sony has actually changed their policies this generation, and I have a master list here of actual things they have censored. And this comes from oneangrygamer.net. What an ironic name for having an article like this. But here's like the list of games that PlayStation has or Sony has censored, either from their own game studios or from other third-party studios. So Ark of Alchemist, Blade, Arcus Rebellion from Shining had its box art censored, but nothing in the game. Brave Neptunia has been censored. Catherine Full Body is not necessary. The censorship on that is actually up for debate on if it's actually Sony who censored it, but it was censored in some ways. Conception Plus was censored. Date Alive Rio Reincarnation was censored, and the art book representing it was also censored by Sony. Dead or Alive Extreme 3 Scarlet was censored. Devil May Cry 5 was censored, but only in Australia and certain European regions. Dragon Star Veneer was censored. Game Tengoku Cruisin' Mix was censored. And these are all PlayStation 4 versions of the games. Haruto Alice Graham was censored. Mary Skelter 2 was censored. Million Arthur Arcana Blood was censored. Nekapara Volume 1. Nora 2, Oju 2, Noraneko Heart. I'm sure I butchered that name. That was censored, but you see it on screen anyways. Omega Labyrinth Z was actually banned by Sony. Banned by Sony, not the government. Sony in the US and Europe. PlayStation Static and Dynamic Themes was censored. Saku Saku Love Blooms with the Cherry Blossoms was censored. Silverio Trinity. Sengoku Heim 7. Senon Turasanka Gurun Nuishi. Again, Japanese game that I'm probably butchering. Nipple Pokies were censored. Whatever, apparently it wasn't censored back in the Vita, but it is on PlayStation 4. Sudden Conqueror 7 was censored. Sudden Conqueror Burst Renewal was censored. SNK 40th Anniversary Collection had its box art censored. Super Seducer was banned by PlayStation 4. Williams Pinball Volume 2 is censored. Yuno is censored in the West. Yuragagi Soa no Yanasan is censored, and Zenki Zero Last Beginnings is censored, and who knows, maybe more as well. I obviously am just going off of their list, and again, some of these people don't really feel that, I guess some people in general don't feel that this sort of censorship is necessarily a bad thing. That's why there hasn't been a ton of reactions to it. But it's interesting that they enacted this policy when it's something Nintendo doesn't have. And the idea was Sony wanted to be more family friendly, which is weird when they're the market leader. Over 100 million PlayStation 4s out there. Well on pace, to hit 120, 130 at some point over the next few years. It always kind of baffled me a little bit that Sony, the system that, really feels like it's for gamers and how they market themselves and the type of games they release for a more adult-oriented audience, is really concerned with family friendliness. It always felt a little strange that that's where they were sticking their flag into the ground. And obviously Sony is not just a video game company. They do other things, movies and television and all that stuff. They make TVs. And when you consider all the other markets they're in, maybe it's just a company-wide stance. But Nintendo doesn't agree with what Sony's doing. In fact, Nintendo firmly believes that the ESRB the Sero rating system out in Japan, all that stuff, PEGI in Europe, that their job is to handle this kind of stuff, and Nintendo trusts them and will not be censoring individual games based on their own internal policies. We found this out because Shuntaro Furukawa was actually asked about this at the recent investors meeting. And I'm getting this quote. It's from a strange place. Normally, I would be linking directly to the actual investors meeting stuff, but I'm not finding it fully translated just yet. If I do find a full translation by the time I post this video today, I'll be sure to include like the link to Nintendo's translation of it. But right now, I'm getting this from Twitter handle @censoredgaming_. And it says, about content regulation on other platforms, there are cases of restrictions applied independently of Sero and other third-party organizations. This is a clear reference to Sony doing that, because they're the only ones that are right now. What does Nintendo do? Shuntaro Furukawa says, Nintendo, as do third parties in their software, applies for an objective rating from third-party organizations prior to release. If platform holding companies choose arbitrarily, the diversity and fairness in game software would be significantly inhibited. We provide parental controls that can be used to apply limits. So what does this mean? Well, it means that Nintendo has no plans, not even considering adding additional censorships in place. Literally, they talked about the diversity and fairness in game software is affected by this. Now, again, obviously, I know some people agree with Sony and agree with what they're doing, but others are like, hey, this is their creative games, and if they're made for people who want to maybe have a little extracurricular adult activities to certain characters in a video game, so be it. You know, it's the game publisher's right to be able to make those kind of games, to make dating sims and all that stuff. And why should Nintendo get in the way of that, get in the way of creative decisions? The ratings boards are there to exist to tell people what age groups that these games are intended for. Why should Nintendo have to step in and do anything about it? The only reason would be because you don't think that the ratings boards are doing their job, but a lot of the games referenced that Sony is taking care of are already rated M for mature anyway, so it's not really that big a deal. And some of the censorship themselves is a little extreme in some cases. Like some of the box art really isn't that bad that they're censoring, but hey, you know what? They got to censor it anyways. That's just Sony's policy on overly sexualized characters or art depictions or whatever the case might be. And I kind of appreciate Nintendo's stance here, because not only are they saying that, hey, look, it's not on us to tell publishers and developing studios what you can and can't do with your characters. You want them to be overly sexualized, go right ahead. That's on you, not on us. They also say, look, if parents don't like their children enjoying this content, we have parental controls. And I'm going to admit something right here. This is something that doesn't get talked about a lot, and now I finally have firsthand experience with this. So, you guys know at this point, I blew my gaming budget this year and got my son a Switch for his birthday. Great. Awesome. And got him a custom skin on it, some new Joy-Cons for it, so he could have Splatoon-themed Joy-Cons, because Splatoon 2 specifically is his favorite game right now. And that's all fine and dandy, but I obviously, wanted to give him access to my digital library. And there's nothing really in my digital library that's too bad, but there are certain games, like Late Shift as an example, that present some very adult themes, because that's like a movie, FMV style game where you're making choices and there's murder and death and like a small little sex scene in it that's not even that bad. But it's something that my son, as a 6-year-old, isn't exactly something I'm ready for him to experience in that way. So something like that, I set up the Parental Control app on my phone, and it turns out that the Parental Control app is extremely robust from Nintendo, and it works very well with the Switch. Obviously, there are certain things I have set on my app that also, communicate to the system. You look, any games above a certain age rating, you just won't even boot up for him. You can't even, download it or whatever. That's all fine. I also blocked access to my account because my account is on his system, so he can actually play these games. But if he ever goes to the eShop, if he ever tries to launch a game with my account, it'll ask for a password, and he won't be able to actually mess with my game saves. And the Parental app is great because even when I'm on the go, if he's at home or really on any Wi-Fi connection with the Switch, I can kind of see what games he's playing. And it's really interesting to have that kind of control. In fact, Nintendo goes as far as I could shut off his dang Switch with my phone. That's how amazing their parental control app is. I can turn off his Switch. I can give him set play hours with that app. Nintendo takes parental controls very seriously, and I don't think it's the parents that take it that seriously. I think the issue with overly sexualized games, overly violent games, even games that have loot box mechanics or whatever, I believe a lot of the responsibility falls on parents if you're worried about your children experiencing these things. You should be a more informed parent. While I don't expect parents to understand what's in every single game, the ratings board will take care of that for the most part. There are very few games rated E10+, which is what I graded my son as games he's able to play. Very few games rated E10+ that parents need to be worried about in terms of overly sexualized characters and stuff like that, because those games are going to be rated T. They're going to be rated M, and in some cases be rated adult only. Parents need to know what they're doing. They need to monitor how long their kids are playing, so they make sure their kids aren't just playing video games for 8 hours a day. I know that can be a lot of fun. Seems like blasphemy to me as a gamer to say that, but he's 6. I'd like him to do a variety of things throughout the day, get some physical activity in. So limit the hours. Limit the age ratings, pay attention to what your son is playing, and if you do notice something on the box art or whatever that looks a little risque to you, maybe do some research on that game. It's not that hard to Google search or DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you prefer to use and just see what that game is about. Look up a quick clip of it. Parents need to be more informed. So I think Sony's method is they want to be the parent for the parents that don't pay enough attention. And I admire that sort of forethought from Sony. I have to kind of agree with Nintendo that Sony shouldn't be getting in the way of creative decisions by other companies. It is up to those companies and the rating boards to really decide if what is happening in those games is okay for the appropriate ratings. I don't think anything, by the way, in games should really be limited. If a game wants to go all out with violence and sex and everything, heck, have virtualized sex going on, fine. That's what AO ratings are for. Like, that's fine. Let those games exist, whatever. But I do think that there is a little too much policing. I mean, when you have Devil May Cry 5 getting censored by Sony, it's getting a little extreme, in my opinion. I do think that Nintendo has a better stance on this. I do think that Sony, Microsoft, who hasn't really spoke up on this much, they hold kind of a similar stance to Nintendo so far, where, hey, look, let them do what they want. The ratings boards will sort everything out. So, again, this also kind of goes against that mantra that Nintendo is just a for kids kind of company or for kids system. Nintendo has always preached diversity and wanting content for all age groups and different backgrounds and different types of people. And this policy that Nintendo holds to in letting the ratings board sort things out, letting parental controls take, like the parents' first step to controlling what their kids are experiencing, is really them saying, we want this open platform. And I couldn't be prouder of Nintendo taking this stance. I'm not even sure why Sony, maybe there was a lawsuit they were having somewhere. I have no idea, but I'm baffled by Sony's decision, because this kind of goes also a little bit against the audience that Sony has been trying to garner for their system, which is these adult hardcore style, teens and young adult kind of audience that makes up a majority of people that seem to have a lot of disposable income and a lot of time to actually play games at the same time, whether you're college students or high school with your first job or whatever the case might be. So I don't know. You guys let me know what your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Obviously, we've known about the Sony censorship stuff for quite some time, but it's not something we really talked about much at this channel because we just talk about Nintendo. But now we have Nintendo kind of responding to it, and I gotta say, I mean, Nintendo's been getting a lot right so far since they released Switch. I know the online service, it has some issues. People might think the Switch isn't powerful enough and all this other stuff, the Joy-Con drift issues and stuff like that, or Nintendo's cheaping out on some parts. And yes, Nintendo isn't perfect, all right? I could sit here for days and days and days, as I've done in the past, and criticize some of the decisions they've made, some of the hardware, some of what this and that. But I gotta say, dude, Switch is... It's getting so many games right now for the rest of this year. Heck, Super Mario Maker 2 just came out, and I don't have it because I can't afford it right now, and that game looks amazing. And heck, the game theorists just built the damn calculator in the dang thing. You have people doing crazy stuff with Mario Maker 2. We're on the cusp of Marvel Ultimate Alliance coming out, and Fire Emblem Three Houses, and this is talking about all of the crazy games going on out there. So I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about all this stuff down in the comments below. I also want to say, hey, what do you think of this new camera angle, kind of this new setup? You get a little bit of the desk underglow going on, and I see on my couch dirty over there. I'm sure that's from my kids. I don't know. Probably chocolate. I know probably not look like chocolate, but it's definitely like chocolate or something. Anyways, I don't know. Thank you guys for tuning in. Go Charizard. I'm glad that I guess you made the cut for the new Pokemon games. No national decks. Isn't that lovely? Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like. You know, leave a comment, subscribe so you can get some more content, hit that bell icon, turn on notifications on your phone so you actually get the notifications that you're trying to get by hitting that bell icon. Also, hey, you know what? Share this video with your friends. That's, you know, the only way we're going to grow as a community is if all of us do our part and introduce more people to my content and to the channel. And thank you guys so much for all of that support. You can always check us out at patreon.com/Nintendo Prime as well if you would like to show any sort of monetary support. Not required, but I always appreciate anyone who likes to do that. Anyways, thank you for tuning in, and as always, folks, I will catch all of you in the next video.